people, and welcome back to today's tutorial. My name is Miranda and I'm the woman behind Miranda's Designs and Creations. Today I want us to do a very classy but very simple skirt that you can make. You can make it for yourself, you can make it for your friends, you can make it for your clients. It's really a very simple skirt to make, and this skirt is called a ruched skirt because it's got drawstrings on the front, and you can decide to put yours maybe in the center. I've seen people who put it at the center back. You can put yours at the center front, you can put it at the side, or you can put two on both sides. So it will be like you can draw the strings on either side, or you can draw on one side and leave the other one as it is. So last time I did a tutorial on how to make a basic skirt block, and in that tutorial I explained that using that basic block you are actually able to manipulate that block and make different designs or different kinds of skirts. So I want to show you how you can do that today. If you haven't watched that tutorial, please, I would advise you to watch that one first before you watch this one. I'm going to leave that link in the description box so that you can watch how we were able to come up with this pattern. So let us proceed to today's tutorial. Okay, so what I have done here is I have folded in all the allowances. Remember, in that tutorial where I was making the basic block, our pattern had a sewing allowance of 1/2 inch. Okay, so since this is going to be a stretchy fabric, so you can see I have a piece here, it's very stretchy. Okay, so I decided to remove all the sewing allowances apart from the hem. Okay, I only reduced the one at the hem because I really don't have enough fabric. So this was our 1.5 inch sewing allowance at the hemline. So I'm just going to fold that in, and I'm just going to add also about 1/2 inch because I don't have enough fabric. This is a piece of fabric that remained from a project I was doing when I was making some headgear, head wraps. I'll try and put up a photo of that so that you can see. I also make hats, I make fascinators, I make head wraps. So this was a remainder of that fabric, and I just decided I think I can manipulate it to fit to fit for this skirt. We also had, remember, on our block, our zipper allowance. So I folded this in because this skirt is not going to have a zipper. It doesn't need a zipper because it's very stretchy, so you are able to put it on easily because it will stretch. Okay, so I folded in all the sewing allowances. I'm not going to be needing that because, remember, because it's stretchy, if you add allowances it might be a little bit loose fitting. So that also depends on how you want your feet to be. I want mine to be quite fitted to the body, that's why I'm removing all the allowances. Okay, so that's done. You can see I have just enough, and I think I'm going to have enough at least 1/2 inch to fold in. So I went on to finish this edge with my shear scissors. Let me just take that to show you. So this is my pinking shears, or the zigzag stitch, or zigzag scissors rather, because it has these zigzag ridges which it leaves as an impression once you cut. So I just decided to use this because I was feeling lazy to go and overlock. But if you want, you can overlock yours, especially if you're not using stretchy material. Woven fabrics will most likely fray, so you can go in to leave enough allowance and just fold it in and make a stitch, or you can go ahead to overlock. I used the pinking shears. Okay, so apart from that, we also need to make one modification. Because this is a stretchy fabric, we are not going to need the dart, neither on the front nor at the back, so we have to eliminate this. And the reason I'm asking you to watch the previous tutorial on how to make the basic block, you will understand why you need to put this on, especially if you're going to be sewing something that doesn't stretch. Okay, in this case it does stretch, so it gives us room. It will still be able to fit nicely on your body without the dart. So we had added an extra 1 inch to accommodate this dart. Okay, so we had added back the 1 inch dart allowance. So because we won't be needing the darts, then we have to go in and eliminate that 1 inch, and then we'll be ready to cut our fabric. So I'm just going to do that. What I'm going to do, so that this doesn't keep on shifting, is I'm just going to place some weights on my paper, align it nicely. I'm going to draw or trace out this pattern on the fabric, and then I will show you how to eliminate that 1 inch before we can go ahead to sew. Okay, so after going on to trace the pattern, I pinned it on to each other so that it doesn't shift. Okay, so I'm just going to remove this pattern paper so that we can make the adjustment. I'm just going on to draw these lines so that they are very visible. I'm using a marker here so that you can be able to see, because my chalk was boycotting, so yeah, that's why I've used the marker. And because it's on the inside, it won't be visible, and that's where the stitch will be anyway. So after drawing or tracing out your pattern, you just need to measure 1 inch, because that was our dart intake allowance. Okay, so from the edge of your skirt, so this will be like your side. Okay, let me remove the pins. So if you measure 1 inch out like that, okay, so on that skirt, yeah, because we already folded in the allowance. So if you have not yet folded in, then you would be taking out 1.5. Remember, we had half an inch for sewing allowance, but it's already folded in, so we only need to take out 1 inch. Okay, so 1 inch from there, and then we are going to measure out your hip. So mine was 9 inches. I explained all that in the other in the tutorial that I'm asking you to watch. So my hip was around there at 9 inches. Okay, so in case you don't remember, you can also, so this was our allowance, so yeah, so somewhere there. Okay, so somewhere there is fine, or you can measure out 8 inches. Okay, because you just want to blend this line back into your hip line so that it doesn't sorry, my ruler fell, so I was just going to pick that up. Okay, so we're going to blend this in. I'm going to move this pin. It's kind of getting into the way. I just pinned the fabric so that it doesn't shift. Okay, so you come in with your ruler, and also going to move that one. You come into with your curved ruler, and you're just going to blend into that 1 inch that you drew or that you marked up on the skirt, and your skirt will be ready. Okay, because otherwise it's going to gape at the waist. Okay, you want this to fit nicely. So that is the adjustment that you have to make if you are using stretchy fabric. If you are using non-stretch fabric, leave it as it is, because you can actually use this pattern you can make this pattern rather on like the African print, the Ankara, the Chitenge, the Kapulana. It will still work out, but you have to consider keeping those allowances. So what you have done on the back pattern, this was a back pattern, we're going to do the same thing on the front pattern. I'm going to mark out 1 inch from the side and then blend it into the hip, and then I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to start sewing. So but before I start sewing, I'm going to show you the other pieces that I cut. Okay, so what I've done is I went ahead to cut out the back pattern, and this is how it looks I want to put it in view. Okay, so this is how it looks after cutting it out from the piece now. Okay, so in my previous tutorial, when I was drafting the pattern, I'd said I was going to keep a length of 22. So this is just slightly over 22 inches, is about 22.25 inches, which is still fine, and that is excluding the hemming allowance, because I'll be folding this. I'm going to use a twin needle to make my work easier when folding it at the down part. So after cutting the back part, before I go to the front, I want us to cut the interfacing, because I had decided that I wasn't going to use a band. I'd rather turn the skirt at the waist with an interfacing. So I just want to show you how you can cut this interfacing. So what you do is you're going to take your skirt, which you've already cut, or you can also use your modified block to cut your interfacing. And you can see the waist has got like kind of a curve, and you want your interfacing to also have the similar curve so that it will sit nicely there and it won't create some funny look at your waistline. So you're going to fold your piece into two, the one that you're going to use for the interfacing. So this way you're folding it in that manner, and you're just going to place your block on top. This is the back block, that's why I put B, the small B there, so that I don't mix up. In this case anyway, because the front and the back will be the same, though there would be that modification that we made on the waist, right? So but anyway, I put that B there. You can mark yours as you wish. And so you just place your interfacing there, and you can decide the length of how long you want your interfacing to be. Okay, so you place it that way, and later I'll be able to trim off if there's excess there. I'm thinking of keeping maybe about 4 inches. Yeah, so this is about 4 inches. For now I'm going to keep it that way, and then I'm just going to place a weight there, and I'm going to trace that interfacing there, the piece, like that, and then I'm going to cut it. It's that simple. Okay, you don't have to start drafting this. Just place your block there, or your skirt that you've already cut, and trace it out this way on fold. This is on fold because we're not having a zipper. So probably if you're going to have a zipper, you would split this open and just add maybe 1 inch allowance, because you need to close off the edges, okay, on the skirt, on the sides when you are sewing and cutting. So when you remove that, you have something like this, and you can go ahead to cut it. Just follow that shape, and if you don't want it to move, you can also just pin it, okay, because you can see it's a little bit shifty. So I'm going to hold there so that it doesn't move. Yeah, so I'm going to cut this off, and I'm going to do the same thing to the back, to the front bodice rather. I'm going to remove that extra 1 inch, and then I'm going to cut a facing for it, okay, and then we can go and start sewing. Okay, I'm just gonna turn this way, it's easier for me. Okay, I'm going to place some sort of weight there, then I'm going to cut. So remember, everything that you do on one side, you must do exactly the same thing to the other side. So in this case, I'm referring to the front block. It has to have the same treatment. Okay, so this is now what we're going to use to turn the inside. Okay, so what you would do is you would place, when you go to sew, okay, we're going to place right sides facing, okay, right sides facing, and then you just stitch, and you're going to flip this over that way. okay, and you're going to have a nice finish there. If you have an overlocker, you can go ahead and overlock the edges. Otherwise, you can just cut it neatly with the normal scissors, because this fabric really doesn't fray. So I'm just doing it because I wanted it not to look like rough, and then sometimes the edges can be uneven when you cut it just with the straight scissors. So I'm going to do the same thing to the front bodies. I'm going to reduce it by 1 inch, and I'm going to cut a matching interfacing. Okay, so now we have all the pieces that we're going to need for our skirt. Okay, so I have, let me start here. So I have the front and the back pattern, and I also have the interfacing that I'm going to use for the two pieces here. So like I had explained, so my front, my upper side is going to be this way. So how I'm going to attach this is I'm going to take the block, okay, and I'll take the corresponding piece. So what I did was I marked them. I marked F for the front interfacing and B for the back, so that it can be as accurate as possible. And then we're going to just place this on the edge at the waist, okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the machine. I'm going to attach this way, sew it all the way through, and then after sewing, I'm just going to turn this inside that way, so it's going to be turned in, because I'm not going to put a waistband. So I'm just going to turn it this way. I'm going to do the same for the back. Attach the interfacing and turn it, and then I'm going to attach the back. Okay, so we have the back panel and the front panel of the skirt. This is the front, because I remember that I had put labeled the back, you can see. So this one is the back. You can, I don't know if you can see that B there. It just helps me to, it just helps to guide me so that I don't, you know, mess up when I'm attaching this. So what I'm going to do is just to put this back and front pieces together after having attached the interfacing, of course. And then I'm going to put these together, and I'm going to stitch the sides. Okay, I'm going to take it to the machine and sew with 1 inch. Okay, 1 inch, not 1 inch, rather ½ inch, because remember I took away all the sewing allowances. So I'm just going to take ½ inch so that it's not too tight on my body. I want it fitting but not extremely tight. Okay, so I'm just going to use ½ inch, and I'm going to sew all the way down, so from the waist down, and then I'm going to do the same from the waist, okay, from the waist down, to attach the back and the front. And before doing that, I would have attached the interfacing like I told you. So you're going to place right sides facing. Okay, you can fold it in half like this and just snip at the center so that you can know which one is the center, and you do the same to your skirt. And then you are going to attach center point to center point that way and that way, and then you just stitch. Okay, so the wider part of your interfacing should be facing down. Okay, so you're going to stitch that first to your pieces, and then that's when you're going to attach back and front skirt. Okay, and then I have also here some pieces or strings. I'm going to use it as a string. So this has a width of about 1 inch, and what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to fold it in half. Okay, I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to stitch all the way down to up. So the length of this strip is about twice the length of the skirt, because I want the drawstrings to be very long. If you want, you can make them shorter, but mine is the length of the skirt, which is 22 times 2, so that should be around 44 inches. Okay, so I'm just going to sew it from top to bottom. There too, I'm going to sew them like that all the way, and then I'm going to turn it to the right side before I can insert into the skirt. Okay, so on the skirt, let's look for the front panel. This is the back, so it will help you for you to label your pieces. Okay, so on the front block, okay, you can even fold it in half. It's going to be okay. So on your block, remember we already removed our 1 inch dart. Okay, so what you can do is you go back to your bust measurement. Mine is 8 inches, so you divide that by 2 and you're going to place it again on your skirt. So that will guide you if you want to place your drawstrings by the side of the skirt. If you want to put it at the center, you can just fold it in half and you can snip there. Just it will be an indicator to you where the center is, so it's easy that way. But I want my drawstrings to be by the side, so I'm going to use the position of the dart. Okay, I'm doing it again here because we had to remove that 1 inch dart there, so the position or the placement will have moved, or it would have moved by 1 inch inwards. Okay, so like I said, my bust span, that is the nipple to nipple distance, is 8 inches. Divided by 2 is 4. So from the center front, this middle is your center front. Okay, you are going to measure 4 inches. Okay, 4 inches. So you can mark 4 inches down right up to your hem. Okay, 4 inches down, and then you're going to connect that with a straight line. That is where your drawstrings is going to be, or they are going to be positions. So the next thing is just to connect that. I think there was a pin there. Okay, just grabbing my ruler, and again I'm using a marker so that it will be visible to you. My chalk, the chalk that I have is kind of cream, so you really wouldn't be able to see what I'm doing. And I'm doing this you know, so you would draw this line that way. Okay, so you're just connecting it from your dart position, your revised dart position. Okay, so you place it nicely, and then now I have another string. I showed you 2 strings here, like 2 pieces of cloth. So it wasn't long enough, so you can see I've put a pin here. I'm just going to join it so that it can give me that 44 inches that I want. Okay, so these are 2 pieces. I have 1 and 2. Okay, so these are going to be our strings. Then I have another piece here, if you can see it. This is a piece that is 2.5 inches wide. Okay, I'm just going to place that so that you can see. So this one is slightly above, it's close to 3 actually. It's about 2.75. Okay, yeah, so it's still fine, and it is about the length of the skirt. Okay, it should be about the length of the skirt. Okay, this one is a little bit short. I told you I was out of fabric, but because it's a stretch and the piece that is, you know, short is not that much, you see, when sewing I'll have to stretch it out so that it can reach the hem of the skirt. Okay, in your case, make sure that you have a fabric that will go up to the hem, especially if it's not stretchy. Okay, so I'm going to stretch it a little bit like this when I'm sewing. That's the advantage of working with stretchy fabric. Okay, so what's going to happen is you are going to place this line that you drew is going to be at the center of this piece that you are placing there. It's going to be at the center, and after that we're going to sew 1/2 inch. Okay, so from this edge measure 1/2 inch inwards. Okay, so your 1/2 inch somewhere there, and you are going to make a stitch all the way up, or if you are starting from up, sew it all the way down. Okay, and then you're going to do the same thing, come out there by 1/2 inch. So that would be your 1/2 inch mark. Okay, you would sew all the way up, all the way up. Once you have attached that, and you can see how I've placed it, the wrong sides are going to be facing each other. Okay, the right side will be facing you when you're placing it on your skirt. Okay, so you're going to sew 1/2 inch on that edge, 1/2 inch on that edge. When we have sewn those two edges, now you're going to sew on the center. Okay, dividing that into two. My string, like I said, is about an inch. So when I fold it and I sew it, it's going to give me about 1/2 inch. Okay, 1/2 inch is like 1 centimeter. Okay, yeah, so it's going to give me about 1/2 inch after I've sewn it. And then I'm going to turn it to the right side, and this is what we are going to use to pass through the channel. And once we've passed through the channel, we are going to be doing this now on the once we've done that, you can draw the strings, and it's going to form those ruffles. That's what is called ruching. And then on the at the top here, we're going to allow the strings to come out by maybe an inch or so. And when we are attaching the interfacing, we're going to sew so that it doesn't move around. Otherwise, the other option that you could do is to leave an opening. So in this case, if I'm to put this piece of fabric a little bit down, and I leave about, you can see it's about an inch left, and you sew 1/2 inch there, 1/2 inch on the other side, and then you sew the middle. Okay, dividing the center into two, and it's going to leave an opening here. So you can have one string that goes all the way around, and then you're going to loop it into the other channel, and it's going to come out there. And that way you can be able to pull it out. Sometimes maybe you want to wear the skirt without the ruching effect, so you can wear it as a normal skirt if you want to do that. But I'm going to sew mine to the waistline so that the strings will be permanent in the skirt. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start sewing. I'm going to start by attaching this piece, and then I'm going to go also and sew these strings like that with 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to turn them inside out before I can attach the interfacing, and then we're going to finish off the skirt. So I went on to attach this piece that we were putting on the skirt. Remember, I said we were going to sew 1/2 inch, another 1/2 inch on the other side, and then we're going to sew the middle part. So I've gone on to do that. This is the wrong side of the fabric, and this is how it looks like on the inside. So I hope you can see those 3 lines. So this is where we're going to insert our strings. Remember the strings that I said I'd cut them about 44 inches, which was double the length. I think they were too long, so I trimmed them off a little bit, and I went on to turn them to the right side, and at the edges I just tied them with these knots, because being stretchy, and it was only 1/2 inch left to sew on that place, to fold it and to sew. It's something challenging, at least on my machine. So I just went on to tie there, and then I'm going to feed it in. I'm going to feed it in through the channel using safety pins. Okay, you can use other methods, but I just use a pin. I'm going to feed it in on from the wrong side. So I'm going to just go through. What I'm going to do is just pick one of them, attach your pin there, and just going to feed it. So from the hem, and the other thing I did to finish off the hem, I don't know if you can see the stitch, so I used my twin needle. You can see it makes double stitches there. I used the twin needle to finish off the edges. I hope you can see it there. And this is the wrong side of it, so I cut it with a pinking shears. If you have an overlocker, you can overlock the edge, and then you just make your hem. So I used my twin needle for beginners who might not know what a twin needle looks like, it's just a normal needle, but it has, you know, it has two needles in one. I don't know how to describe this for you. So you put it in the machine the way you normally put it, but instead of threading one here, you are going to be threading two sides, and you stitch normally. It's going to make that stitch for you. It's normally good when you make them, like you want to finish the edges of stretchy fabric and yeah, like jersey material. It really does a good finish. So I'm just going to take the string. This is the strings that I got. I also was able to sew on the edges because I saw that it was becoming undone as I was going along. So just to secure that stitch, after turning it inside out, I also decided to just put a stitch there. Okay, so I'm going to pull this through until the other end, and then I'll sew it. So it's kind of, I'll sandwich it between the skirt and the interfacing, so that the strings will be permanent to the skirt. I'll show you once I've passed through the strings in the channel. There we go. So you can see that I've fed the strings into the two channels that we created, and I have some pieces here hanging out. Okay, so the only other thing that now you have to do is just to draw the strings. You can draw them on both sides to create that ruching effect. Okay, you can see the effect there. Just want to make sure that here at the bottom they have the same length. So I'm just going to tie there. Okay, so you have something like that. You can tie it into a bow at the bottom there, and then you have some pieces hanging out. Maybe I should draw it out a little bit more. Okay, so you just draw the strings and it will create that ruching, and that's how you go about making that design. Okay, so I'm going to leave some piece there, or these pieces there, so that when I attach the interfacing, remember we still have to attach the interfacing. Okay, I'm going to attach it this way. After attaching that way, I'm going to stitch, and I'm going to stitch over the ruching so that these strings cannot come out. So in this case the strings will be permanent. Okay, I showed you how to do it if you want them to be removable. So mine will be permanent. I'm just going to pin it, and then I'm going to take it to the machine. I'm going to sew it with 1/2 inch sewing allowance. After that, I'll put the back panel on top of that. I'm first going to attach the interfacing to the back panel. This is the back panel. Okay, so I'm going to go and attach that interfacing, and then afterwards I will place the back on the right panel, and I'm going to sew all around with 1 inch, and I'm also going to finish off the hem of the back panel, and our skirt will be ready. So I'm just going to do that, and then I'll show you how our skirt will look like. So finally we have our skirt finished. This is our ruched skirt. So it's because of this ruching, that's why it's called a ruched skirt. And I went on to sew on the interfacing. As you can see, this is the back side, the inner part, and of course you can iron this so that it can lie flat here by the edges. If you want, you can even do a top stitch, so you stitch to the interfacing, not to the side of the skirt, otherwise it will be visible. Unless you want to do a top stitch on top over the waistline, I prefer to leave it this way. It's okay the way it is. I'm just going to press it, and then I'm going to try it on for you guys so that you can see how it looks like. I also put this some photos of this wearing it, so that you can see how it fit on the body. So the adjustment that I made was, remember, I had taken out all the sewing allowances from the pattern itself, and then I sewed the back to the front using 1/2 inch. So when I tried it on, it was still a little bit loose because this fabric is very stretchy, as you can see. So I went on to sew with 1 inch from the waist to the hip, because from the hip down it was fine. It was penciled, remember, it was like tapered rather, so we created that pencil effect. So at the down part it was okay. I found it a little bit loose on the waist, so instead of sewing with that 1/2 inch, I increased it to 1 inch, and then it fit me perfectly. You will see some of the photos when I try it on. This is how it looks like at the back. I went also on to finish off the hem of the back part. So this is our ruched skirt. You can make your strings longer if you don't want to put it by the side, because mine is by the side. You can put it at the center. Some people can even put it at the center back. It depends on what effect you want. So this is how you can make your ruched skirt. You can actually make a dress, so you can go on to make a bodice and then attach it to the top and come up with a dress, or you can make a bodice and make a skirt. You can make like a circle skirt and you add this ruching effect, because now you know how to do it, isn't it? Okay, so thank you very much for watching until the end. I hope that this tutorial has been helpful and the content has been useful to you. And if it has been useful to you, please consider subscribing. Hit the subscription button, it's free, and that's the only way you can also give back to the channel, and you can help me to grow. And as we go on, hopefully I'll be able to upload more content that is more helpful to you as well as you go on your sewing journey. And I also just want to shout out to those who are watching for the first time. Feel free, feel at home. You can engage with me in the comment section. So I wish you well, and I'll see you on our next video. Bye and stay safe.